How does one man's belief, spoken softly yet echoing like thunder, ignite a revolution in the hearts and minds of an entire nation? How does a spirit, even when brutally silenced, continue to inspire generations to fight for their dignity and freedom? This is the powerful and tragic story of Steve Biko, a young man who dared to tell his people that black is beautiful, in a land that tried to tell them they were not. Imagine a young boy, Bantu Stephen Biko, born in 1946 in a small township called Ginsberg, in what is now Kwants, South Africa. His early life was shaped by poverty, but also by the strength and love of his Joseph family. His father, a clerk, died when Steve was just 4, leaving his mother, Alice, to raise 4 children alone, working as a domestic helper and cook. Steve was bright, sharp, and quickly noticed things that were not right in his world. Can you picture a young boy seeing his mother work so hard, sometimes for very little, and starting to ask, why? This was the beginning of his political awakening. To understand Steve Biko's journey, we must first understand the shadow that hung over South Africa. Apartheid. Imagine a country where laws were made to separate people just because of the color of their skin. White people, a small number, had all the power and the best of everything. Black people, who were the majority, were forced to live in separate areas, attend different schools, use different facilities, and were treated like strangers in their own land. They couldn't vote, couldn't own land in many places, and were constantly reminded that they were seen as less. This system, called apartheid, was a cruel, unfair way of life that tried to break the spirit of black people. Steve Biko was an exceptional student, even skipping a year in the primary school. He went on to study medicine at the University of Natal. Here he saw how even in multiracial student groups, black students' voices were often ignored, and white students still held control. He realized that true change wouldn't come from begging for acceptance from white liberals, but from black people finding their own strength and voice. This realization led him to form the South African Students' Organization, SASO, in 1968, an organization exclusively for black students. This was the birth of the Black Consciousness Movement, BCM. Black consciousness was not about hating white people. It was about loving black people. It was a philosophy that told black South Africans, "You are okay as you are. Begin to look upon yourself as a human being." Biko's message was simple yet revolutionary. Black people needed to free their minds from the feeling of inferiority that apartheid had forced upon them. He famously said, "The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed." He encouraged black people, which for him included Africans, Indians, and colored people, to embrace their history, culture, and dignity. It was about psychological liberation, about restoring pride where it had been systematically stripped away. "Black is beautiful" became a powerful slogan, not just about physical appearance but about the inherent worth and power of black identity. Steve Biko wasn't just a talker, he was a doer. He left medical school to fully dedicate himself to black consciousness. He established Black Community Programs, BCP, which put his ideas into action. Imagine a network of community clinics like the Zanampilo Community Health Center, offering health care to those who had none. Picture cottage industries like a leatherwork factory, creating jobs and economic independence. He set up resource centers and published newsletters that provided news and promoted positive black identity. These programs were vital lifelines, practical expressions of self-reliance and empowerment. His influence grew rapidly, especially among young people. The apartheid government, initially dismissing black consciousness, soon realized its danger. This movement wasn't just about protesting laws, it was about changing how people thought and felt, making them fearless. In 1973, the government banned Biko. This meant he couldn't speak to more than one person at a time, couldn't travel outside his hometown of King Williamstown, and his writings couldn't be published. They hoped to silence him, to make him disappear. But Steve Biko was not easily silenced. He constantly defied his banning orders, continuing his activism in secret, addressing gatherings and developing BCP projects. He was arrested many times, often enduring harsh interrogations, but he always held firm to his beliefs. He knew the risks he was taking. His wife, Nisiki, and his close friends knew too. His final arrest came on August 18, 1977. He and a colleague, Peter Jones, were stopped at a roadblock while secretly traveling to a meeting in Cape Town, a clear violation of his banning order. Biko was taken to Port Elizabeth, to the security police headquarters, a place notorious for its brutality. He was interrogated for days, subjected to severe torture. We now know that he was beaten mercilessly, suffering severe head injuries. On September 6, 1977, after days of torture, Biko was found naked and comatose in his cell, with clear signs of massive brain injury. Instead of getting immediate, proper medical care, the authorities tried to cover up his condition. A doctor, Benjamin Tucker, examined him, but, under pressure from the police, diagnosed him with malingering, pretending to be sick. It was only later, when his condition worsened drastically, that a decision was made to transfer him to a prison hospital in Pretoria, some 190 kilometers away. Imagine the horror. A man with a severe brain injury, barely conscious, shackled and naked in the back of a Land Rover, driven for hours across the country, denied proper medical attention. This inhumane journey, lasting 12 hours, only worsened his condition. On September 12, 1977, Steve Biko died alone on the floor of a prison cell in Pretoria. He was just 30 years old. The government's immediate response was a brazen lie. The Minister of Justice, Jimmy Kruger, claimed Biko had died from a hunger strike, famously stating that Biko's death left him cold. But the truth, though initially suppressed, soon began to emerge. His friends, like journalist Donald Woods and his family, refused to accept the lies. A post-mortem examination, requested by his family, revealed undeniable evidence of severe head trauma. The subsequent inquest into his death was a mockery of justice, with the magistrate concluding that no one was to blame. But the world knew better. Biko's death sparked outrage globally, exposing the horrific brutality of the apartheid regime to an international audience. It galvanized the anti-apartheid movement, leading to increased sanctions and pressure on the South African government. Years later, during the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC, in the late 1990s, the police officers involved finally confessed to beating Biko. While they sought amnesty, it brought some measure of truth to the official record. Steve Biko's physical life ended tragically, but his spirit and his ideas became immortal. He became a martyr, a powerful symbol of resistance against oppression. His philosophy of black consciousness continued to inspire the youth and fuel the struggle against apartheid, contributing to the eventual dismantling of that evil system. Today, his legacy reminds us that true liberation begins within, that self-worth and dignity are powerful weapons against any form of oppression. His words still ring true. It is better to die for an idea that will live than to live for an idea that will die. And for millions, Steve Biko's idea lives on, forever.